The Volvo EX30 is the third best-selling EV in all of Europe, and now they're going to broaden its appeal by releasing the cross-country version. But here's where it gets interesting. It's the first EV cross-country and also the first SUV cross-country. So what does that mean, and is this the EX30 to buy? You're watching Autogefühl, I'm AJ, and we have the new EX30 cross-country right here in its natural habitat all the way up north in Sweden. So, cross countries have always meant a station wagon which has slightly more off-road capability. So, higher ground clearance, all-wheel drive, and better body cladding to prevent getting scratches. And that continues here. So we see that the front panel of the EX30 Cross Country has this nice matte black front shield. It's also got really cool topographic lines for some of the mountain ranges here in Sweden. And also the lower part of the bumper is a lot more rugged, and this design is bespoke to the Cross Country. Of course, you get standard classic elements like the Thor's hammer LED headlights, and overall a very smart and aerodynamic design. As we go to the side, the other component, of course, is the higher ground clearance. So this has been raised now by 19 millimeters. That's thanks to, in part, the actual chassis being higher, but also these larger wheels. So the overall diameter, the rim plus rubber, is also bigger now, and this gives an overall higher ground clearance. Speaking of tires, you get these 19-inch rims. This, of course, we have now the studded winter tires, because obviously, but you can also get an 18-inch wheel with an off-road tire as an optional extra. You also get black cladding on the wheel arches, which are of course extended in the first place. So if you're driving through some really narrow trails, tree branches have a less chance of scratching your bodywork. The EX30 Cross Country is still the same size. It's still about 4.23 meters long. And back here, yeah, it's not really that much of a standard SUV like the XC90 or the EX90. It's still a little bit more crossover. These smaller SUVs are always a little bit, you know, they are a little bit free with the term SUV anyway. And at the back as well, we see a nice matte shield, again, for the cross-country model to prevent scratches. And even the bumpers down here are a lot more rugged. And there you go, cross-country badging as well. And to the keen eye, you will also notice the twin performance badge, and that rounds off the trifecta, the third key component, and that is all-wheel drive. So of course, the Cross Country comes, at least for the moment, only with the twin motor all-wheel drive system. Being the twin motor setup, you only get the larger battery pack, which is about 66 kilowatt hours net, and this also comes as standard with the heat pump. So you get different charging options. For example, with DC charging, you get 10 to 80% in about 26 minutes with a 175 kilowatt charger. You do actually get real one-pedal driving, so it completely goes to a stop. We'll test that out once we're driving. 428 metric horsepower is the combined output, and WLTP range is about 425 kilometers, which is a little bit less than the standard EX30. And a real-world estimate from our testing earlier, about 20 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers means about 300 kilometers in range. Here's a cute detail in the frunk. Of course, you get a little bit of storage, but up here on the lid, you get a nice Swedish landscape with the EX30 over here, and a big old moose, and some cute clouds and trees. How awesome is that? There are also different accessories that you can get, including this roof basket, a kayak holder, and even a tow bar cargo box. Let's get inside because I am freezing, but first, door closing sound. Overall, not too bad, a little bit of shimmy here. When we open the door, the first thing that grabs our attention is just how minimal this door panel is. No speaker, no switches for the mirrors or the windows, just this latch here. But what I do like, of course, is that there's so much recycled material. If you look closely at this plastic, you even feel the texture. Very nice recycled plastic. Even a lot of the aluminum has been recycled. This is called Nordico, which is a leatherette. If we take a look inside, we can talk a little bit more on the seat here. This is made from pine tree oil that they source from Scandinavia. So really nice. The other trim is called Indigo, and along with this Nordico seat leatherette material, you also get upcycled denim. So pretty cool. Getting inside is easier because, remember, 19 millimeters of extra ground clearance, so the height of the car is a little bit taller now. Again, very minimal design here on the dashboard, very Scandinavian. The only thing that grabs your attention is this iPad-like infotainment system, but that also means there are no buttons. But this system is a full Google system, and that also means therefore you have Google apps like the Play Store, Google Maps built in. Of course, you have your Spotify. There's also a button here to jump directly to the 360 camera, which is really nice because you can even have the car rendered with the door open. How cool is that? Another little detail that I like is if you go to the ambient light setting, you have Nordic twilight, the northern lights, and you know, very Scandinavian themed interior designs, and you can see that reflecting with the colors that change across the ambient lighting here on the dashboard. Now that we're speaking about this dashboard, really nice design, but hey, wait a minute, where's the glove box? Well, actually, the cool thing is there is only one glove box, and you open that by pressing that button, and this drops down here. So it's also accessible from the driver. It's not a big reach. So you have some storage over here. In the place of the center console, they have a lot of storage. Inductive phone charging over here, and even a tray in the bottom, which has USB-C as well. So you can put some things here and close this. And up here, you see that there are buttons for the window switches, so that's where you get those. To operate the rear windows, you just toggle on the rear setting, and then you can raise or lower the rear windows. But, ta-da! You get this nice tray in the middle to keep a lot of items. If you want, you can bring out one cup holder here, so you can use this to keep some other item and then put a bottle, or you can move this further up and then you have two bottle holders. So pretty versatile. You can also bring this back to just have one. So very flexible. And finally, again, we said there's no speakers, so how do you listen to music? Well, you can see Harman Kardon. So this is a home TV style sound bar. So they say that's a cool Scandinavian design. To me, that kind of smells fishy. Maybe it's just a little bit of cost cutting. What do you think? So yes, unfortunately, the climate menu is here. And then you have to make all your settings with this. There's also a seat heating and steering wheel heating menu. So two separate menus. I wish there was just one. In fact, I wish there were just buttons. I like the steering wheel. It's a little bit squircle. So flat bottom, flat top, but has a nice grip. It's fairly thin, I would say. Capacitive controls here for the menu and the assistant systems. Very large and glossy black stalks for the to put it into drive and park, and on the left hand side you have the lights and the windshield wipers. But there is no screen whatsoever in the front. So again, they're going with the Tesla route by having you look at the main screen for the speedometer. I think it's not the end of the world, and this also liberates so much space in the front, so they're able to push the seats a little bit further forward, make the dashboard quite narrow, and this also improves the space on the inside. Of course, being a Volvo, there's a suite of many different kinds of driver assistance systems, and of course, a button to toggle the one pedal drive on or off. The back of the EX30 is a little bit hit and miss. First of all, the bench is quite low, and therefore you can see my knees are quite up high. There is therefore no under thigh support, so not going to be very comfortable on long drives. This seat is set roughly to my driving position. I'm about 5'8", or about 1.7 meters, and yeah, I'm wearing snow boots, but there's not so much place for me to slide my feet under. Again, battery pack skateboard architecture. It's right here below the floor. A little bit of downside there. But that being said, plenty of headroom and this large panoramic roof, which is now covered in snow, but otherwise will let in a lot of light. It doesn't open though, so it's just a big, ginormous glass roof that even extends behind my head. So even if I look straight up, I can see, well, hopefully the northern lights, maybe if you're driving up here in Sweden. So there are speakers on the rear doors, so that's nice. And again, very minimal design, just a door pocket. The control for the windows as well are operated right here. You have the switches for the windows, a couple USB-C ports, a place to keep your phone, and a removable little parcel tray with more moose and tree embossing. How cool is that? The seats themselves have some pretty good practicality, a large door pocket, a smaller pouch for your phone. Isofix points for the outside two seats, but not even a folding armrest. So overall, a little bit hit and miss, but at least the seat materials are very comfortable. Not much of a large transmission hump at all. And without that center armrest, actually, the back cushioning is a lot more supple. So it's manageable. It's definitely manageable. All right, let's take a look in the trunk. Automatic tailgate. And what we're looking at is 320 liters of volume for the boot. Goes up to 1,000 when we put the seats down. We'll take a look at that. We can also remove and lower this a little bit further down, but of course then you need to get rid of things down here. It's a pretty nice square loading area. The loading lip is not too high when the floor is in the higher position. There's some cubby holes on the side, a power charger, power socket over there as well. You can also remove the parcel tray and then stack larger items as well. All right, look at where we are on this map. We're on a frozen lake here in Sweden. In fact, I was talking to the product manager for the XC30 last night at dinner, and he said that parts of the official Swedish road network happen to cross frozen rivers in the winter, and during the summer you just have to take a ferry. So this is what these cars have been designed for. And the EX30 Cross Country now being the first electric cross country, let's see how it performs out on this ice track. While this is, of course, an all-wheel drive setup with two electric motors, it's a rear-wheel biased system. What that means is the front motor disengages in the efficiency mode, in the eco mode, and it only activates when it detects slip, when it needs to, and otherwise it's just running purely as an rear-wheel drive vehicle. But what I want to do is go into the settings menu, okay, and here in the controls, I want to have, in the driving, there we go. I want to have one pedal on, so this does come to a complete stop, like that. And I can also turn off the ESC. We'll see, once I get a little bit more comfortable with the track. Let's see if we can spin the tail a little bit, slide it around. And Volvos, of course, have had a long-standing philosophy for safety, and I really appreciate how much effort has been taken even in this cross country to further make it safer with a lot of the assistance systems. Unfortunately, we cannot really test them out here on this track, but let's go out for a spin. I can deal with a minimalist interior like this. I can appreciate it even more so, as long as it also requires minimal input and intervention from me. And what I like about this system is I had to just toggle on one setting for the performance all-wheel drive, and other than that, the system is taking care of torque vectoring and braking the inside wheel and, you know, managing the traction control all on its own without me having to dig through a bunch of different menus to try to set it up for ICE driving. What I do miss, however, though, is perhaps a head-up display, because yes, the speed on the top right corner, or rather the top left corner of the display is fairly visible and it's not easy to glance. I think in the name of safety, at least, a very basic head-up display would have been nice, but I'm nitpicking here. Without that, you know, they're able to make it very light, because an electric vehicle is so heavy. They're able to reduce the amount of componentry that's put into the dashboard here, and therefore saving weight. Also meaning more sustainable manufacturing practices, because they don't have to have separate tooling and separate production lines. They can just build essentially one kind of design here, and one component, one SKU, and that reduces the environmental impact. Speaking of which, that philosophy continues with the materials. We spoke about this wool insert, we spoke about the Nordico leatherette, but even things like the floor mats are made from 100% recycled PET bottles. So safety as well as environmentally friendly. And with the one pedal drive, you know, it's really fun as I'm now getting a little bit more familiar with the track, because it does provide a decent amount of regenerative braking, so I don't have to use the brake pedal as often, but it's not as strong as actually the EX90, the flagship. That has a much more powerful, yet very linear and predictable one-pedal braking. I don't think this one has that much. I'm still having to use the brakes quite a lot more, but being smaller, it's definitely very nimble. It feels a lot more agile. It feels very light on its feet. Steering is, yes, it's a Volvo. This is not a performance version. It's a bit vague. There's reasonable weight and I can change the steering feel. I can make it firm, but it's just, again, the electromechanical assist that's changing. It's not, of course, able to change the geometry of the suspension linkages and the steering joints. So the feedback in terms of what the wheels are doing doesn't necessarily change all that much. But it's very predictable. It's very confidence-inspiring. This higher ground clearance and this slightly higher seating position lends a great view all around. That nice panoramic roof is letting in a lot of light, which is quite needed in this dark Arctic winter. You can get an optional manual shade if you would like for that. And you know, the EX30 has been such a popular car. They've had to shift production to Belgium to keep up with the demand. So I think the Cross Country is just going to further those orders coming in for them, because now everybody has a slightly different version that suits their needs a little bit more. And I, for one, if I lived up here in Sweden, I would certainly buy the Cross Country instead. And woohoo! Now that I'm picking up the pace, oh yeah, acceleration is also quite nice. And yeah, this is a tight corner here, but let's turn off the ESC. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell Thomas. Let's see what happens. Am I going to crash into the snowbank? Not quite. It is a little bit noisy. Yes, you don't have that high level of sound deadening. You don't have that level of acoustic damping. Therefore, I do hear the snow. I do hear the tires. Of course, I'm running on studded tires, so they're inherently loud. But it's probably not the quietest in the segment. And again, being electric, you always hear the environment around you because you don't hear, there's no engine to listen to, right? So the wind noise and the tire noise are a little bit more evident. Definitely lives up to the cross-country philosophy of Volvo, of providing a slightly more off-road capable all-wheel drive, and of course the design and aesthetic that come with the cross-country branding. They're planning some interesting cross-country experiences. I wonder what that is. It's a lot of accessories, but maybe they have some other programs that they want to start. So they're expanding the cross-country philosophy of Volvo, and this EX30 Cross Country is the first of many such interesting deviations from what we know, but I welcome it nonetheless. The Volvo EX30 Cross Country starts at 57,300 euros in Germany and about $48,000 in the US. Let me know if that price seems reasonable to you, or if you think it's a little bit on the higher side. With that said though, that makes this cross country a great option for those who live out in the rural areas of the world, like here in northern Sweden, where that extra ground clearance and that all-wheel drive really makes a big difference. Of course, being an EV and still being not a true hardcore off-roader, it's not designed to be something that you can take overlanding, but to help you get to your work and to do your day-to-day chores out here in the countryside. If you're interested in some other Volvo cross countries, check out some of the links in the description below. I remember some time ago I drove the V90 cross country and came out pretty impressed. Check it out, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.